Yeah, it's gonna. Okay, right now, if you go to at comedian Nazareth on Facebook, and
Okay, let me do that. Hang
we
on.
are.
Give me a second.
Take your time
I'm
because
gonna
we
go
are.
here, and then
And
I'm gonna go
and
search.
and
I'm gonna
we
go.
are. And we are live. Yes. Hello, hello, hello,
We're
and
live.
welcome to the Laughter for All podcast. I am comedian Nazareth, and thank you so much for joining us. We have a special episode for you guys. We we have uh the most memorable drummer in the history of Christian music, ladies and gentlemen. If you heard of the Newsboys, you know the first thing that hits you is that great drummer that plays. Duncan Phillips is our guest today, and he has been in the Newsboys since '93. What blows my mind is he was a keyboardist for them, and then moved to be a percussion in '94, then a drummer. And so just so multi-talented. He's Australian, and
We
Duncan.
won't hold that against me.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the
All
time.
right, it's great to be here, man. It's great to be
Y-
here.
it's always, one of the two great things about the pandemic. Number one is we can you have time, you're not on the road, so we're able to have
Right.
interviews with you. And number two, I can travel without airport security stopping me for 2 days because I don't have a fever, so that's good. So welcome to the show. Tell me, before you know what, the drummer, before I worked with you guys 20 times, and we've hardly talked. Like every time we're either at Creation or somewhere else, and you guys
Yeah,
are,
it's
the line.
crazy.
You're always
It's
the
crazy.
headliners, and you're
Yeah.
always people go crazy, and so it's no time. But when I was growing up, Nick Mason was from Pink Floyd, the guy that lost his arm and still was a
Yeah.
drummer. He's a fun.
Yeah.
Who's you? And then there's John Bonman from Led Zeppelin.
John Bonham. Yeah.
Who's your favorite drummer?
Oh man, that's there's different drummers I love for different reasons. Like I love drummers that play for the song. And I think it's one of the things that I've learned over time is don't, as a musician, whether you're drummer or not, but as a musician, you've got to learn to serve the song. So what
Mm.
that means is not overplaying, which is very tempting, especially really good drummers. They're very technical. It's very hard to not overplay. Some can do it and some do it brilliantly. I love Larry Mullen Jr. from U2. I think he's one of the probably, I learned a lot from him just listening to his music or listening to music of U2 when I was kind of growing up because I realized that everything that he did served the song. It complemented the song. It never overshadowed the tempo of the lyric. It never overshadowed the vocal. It just seemed to work so well and in hand, and it almost became like a hook. His fills became a hook. It almost like you can have a vocal hook, which is typically the chorus of any song. You can have drumming hooks or rhythmical hooks within a song that when that groove starts or that particular feel comes in, one of the biggest ones is Phil Collins in the air tonight. You know,
Oh yes.
everyone in the world knows that drum fill, right? Because, and it's not that it's that technical, it's just that it served the song at that moment in the song so beautifully. There's no other feel that would serve the song, in my opinion anyway, better than that feel at that time. So I've learned a lot how to not overplay, play for the song, serve the song, and try to play to where another band's Nirvana, the Foo Fighters, both oh, uh, both of the names escape me at this point. Great drummers, they know how to serve the song. Then you look at bands like AC/DC, just really just straight ahead, but just in the pocket, just serving the song, And but then there are other great drummers too that are so technical. They do things beyond that I don't even know what they're doing. Some drummers they've refined their craft down to that, and that's amazing too, in a whole different way. But for me personally, man, if I can, you know, if that drummer's making me do this, making me nod my head, it's like, yeah, dude, it's making me feel something inside. That, in my opinion, is a better drummer for the people. Now there's drummers, they serve other musicians too, and that's a whole different thing. So
But you
anyway,
know what's neat about you is you never like you never overshadow. You never, in your drumming, like you said earlier, you never, you serve the song. But watching you, and I've watched you guys many times, but is you always steal the attention, the physical attention of the band, regardless if it's Michael Tate or Peter,
yeah,
and they're the lead singers. You're always like, I can tell the audience was staring at you, and somehow you're
yeah,
drumming. That's the way you drum. So there's
yeah.
something about that. But is that, if you have to choose which instrument you would play, what would it be? Would it be the drums?
Oh yeah, all day long, dude. You kidding me?
Not the
Yeah.
keyboards.
No, keyboards are great too. It's a different headspace. It's a different. It's almost like a different cap that you put on
Mm.
between keyboards. It's just a different thing. Drums was always my first love because there's something very primal, testosterone driven around drums. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah.
Do
Man, when
you?
I was a teenager. Yeah. What?
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, no, no. When you were a teenager in Queensland, Australia,
Yeah,
right?
in Australia. I mean, I just love the way that playing drums made me feel because there was something so primal about it for me. And if I could make a group of people do this, um, that to me was there was no better feeling than that. I mean, I don't know. It's something about making people feel something in here. And when you can do that and make people move and experience an emotion, no matter what they be, I think to me, that's the better musician. Um, Not necessarily how many notes can I jam into this bar, and show you how technical I am. And that's great too. I'm not canning that. But for me, I want people to feel something when I play rather than, hey, look what I can do.
And that's amazing. And you can tell why Newsboy has been big for a long time. It just there's something about you guys that get the audience so involved, so into it. But
Mm.
okay, now you said there's it started when you were. I'm sure your parents, neighbors hated you guys,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you were a surfer. You were a champion surfer, right?
Oh, I don't know about that, but I won a couple of trophies, but I was up and coming. Something I did every day. I won a couple of trophies, but I wouldn't say I was a champion though. But there's plenty of guys way better than I did. I was, but they had the time. My time was pulled between surfing and playing music. So and then the music won over in that sense. So there were guys that I grew up with that did become champions. But for me, kind of the music as I got older, that kind of pulled me. It was more of a pull on me than the surfing was, and I don't regret a second of it. Although I still love the beach, there's something about to me getting in the ocean, getting the seawater. I think there's something so revitalizing about it. I think it's good for my brain. It's good for your sinuses. It's just good for your health in general. I think there's something in the salt water that's life giving to us. And I don't know. That's my opinion anyway. That's the way
But
I feel whenever I get in the ocean. I just feel so much better.
it's funny because thinking you're from Australia and you're in the water. What about sharks surfing? That's all I get. It's a stereotype, maybe,
Yeah,
but there's always
yeah,
sharks and.
yeah. There is. It's funny thing. I We knew they were there, but um, we never kind of really worried about it. It was the weirdest thing. We were just brought up a little different, I guess.
Mm.
And a lot of things in Australia want to kill you. I mean, the spiders, snakes, sharks. I mean, just about everything wants to have a piece of you. But I think we were perhaps brought up a little tougher, and it just was what it was. And I didn't know anyone growing up that ever got attacked. So, but then people had. So, uh, on the other side of it, people die in car accidents every day. People die. There's way more people have died of car accidents, and we don't think twice about not getting into a car and go drive to wherever. So there's that.
That's right. Now, what if the music thing didn't work for you? Like, what if it's a, because you gotta understand, there's so many
Yeah,
few people make it in their career, especially in the
yeah, right.
entertainment music.
Yeah.
What else would you be doing?
Well, for us growing up, that was kind of never an option. We never, and it wasn't like we were prideful or arrogant. It's just that we knew that that's what we wanted to do. And we knew through hard work and tenacity and perseverance that we had a chance on some level.
You mean
Now,
as a
if we,
band before
yeah,
when did you join the band? In 90, yeah, so you
93,
guys,
93.
all started, the Newsboys started in Australia.
It did. We started back in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, and we kind of grew. We were teenagers and had nothing else to do. So we kind of, that was where we spent all those hours and hours in our sheds, in our garages, just working on our craft, just playing and playing and playing. And the one story is I remember we were practicing at Peter's parents' house. And there was a one
Mhm.
single car garage, middle of summer. Now, Queensland in the middle of summer is Africa hot. I mean, it is hot, humid, crazy, right? We had we boarded up all the windows with mattresses and egg crates and whatever we could find to deaden the sound. And we'd get in there for an hour. We were a garage band, so we just got in there, sweated out, we went crazy, came outside, cooled off, drank a gallon of water, then went back in and did it all again. So there was that incredible drive from a very early age that this is what we wanted to do. And it's that drive that it's still very much there today.
Mhm.
Um, and I hope it never goes away. I think the day that it does, I think that's the day that's the time to quit.
Mhm.
When you're just going through the motions and just getting a paycheck, just quit, do something else. But
You know what's interesting?
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
go
what's
ahead.
interesting about that, Duncan, is before the pandemic, it was sometimes, even as comedy, where it's the same thing. When you're on stage, it's the same thing. You're either performing where you're feeling everything, or you're on automatic pilot. You're just, the song, the
Sure.
jokes, the bit, you do it.
Yep.
But after the pandemic, when we found out we're not performing, one of the things that went with me is like, I don't want to be on automatic pilot. I don't want to go through the motion.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
enjoy the applause. I want to enjoy the laughter. I want to enjoy
Yeah.
performing. So how is that? But before I go there, you said you guys were in the garage working. Were you guys a Christian band back then? Were you a believer at that time?
Yeah, we're all believers, but we just played wherever we could. I mean, Australia back in those days, we didn't kind of have a Christian music industry, so to speak. We weren't, um, although we're all Christians, and we knew about American, CCM, of course.
Hmm.
But for us, there wasn't that line of division. So we'd play pubs and clubs, and we learned some, top 40 stuff that we kind of knew that we had to play. But then we'd introduce our stuff, as people loved it. People liked it. So there wasn't that kind of that line of distinction so much when we were growing up. Now, when we came to the States for the first time, because we're saying about our faith, um, it was like, okay, well, you belong over here in this pigeonhole, in
Ah.
that sense. And that's kind of how it happened. So, and we were kind of initially we were kind of a little confused by it, but then okay, if that's what it is that how it works here? That's, we had a massive learning curve. We were teenagers and thought we knew it all, but of course, most teenagers think they know it all, but don't. Um, that we were kind of, okay, well, you sing about faith, you're over here, these are the labels, and that's what we did, and no regrets whatsoever. So yeah, it was just a different thing, and it was good times though, man. Good times. We were hungry, man. We were hungry. We did anything it took, and I think that's what it takes. Well, succeed in anything, not
What
just
was
music,
your
but
Yeah, what was your biggest, like, first big show that you guys felt, okay, you know what? We made it. We're
yeah,
in.
one of the first big shows we ever played was Creation Festival up in Pennsylvania, just outside Altoona, Pennsylvania. And I remember it was 89, maybe 90, and we were playing the side stage, and we were so hungry. What we did is we so desperately wanted to play the main stage, which is in front of, back those days, it was 70, 80,000 people, a lot of
Yes.
people. And I think we talked to someone, and they said, if you can get 5,000 signatures, we'll let you play main stage. Because at that point it was Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith,
Yeah.
it was Whiteheart, Petra, they were the headliners, and we thought we had something special, So we went around and got 5,000 signatures, and anyway, they let us play the main stage. It was in the afternoon or something like that, but still we didn't care. But we knew that we had to make that impact. We knew that we had something different than what was already there, and we just felt that if we could just get in front of enough people, that we might connect on some level, and we did. And I guess they say that the rest of the story is
Yeah.
you have seen the career. But that was one of the big moments. And a lot of bands have those big moments in their career where that one show kind of really helped to elevate them to the next level, so to speak. And that was definitely one for us, for sure.
And from there, you guys started doing like over 200 dates a year and all that.
Yeah,
Is there a show you remember that was either embarrassing or now you can laugh at it? Something went wrong or
yeah.
something?
Oh, tons of them. Oh, yeah. But one in particular that sticks in mind is we'd been playing a set in a certain way for about 12 months. And I was locked into that's how we played the set, right? And then this
Yeah.
one day, for the beginning of the first show of our next tour, we'd swapped a couple of songs around. So I finished the song, walked off stage, and I'm like, I'm done for the night, right? Because that was the last song.
Yeah.
The dressing room was way back in the back of the venue. You had to kind of go through the people to get. It was one
Yep.
kind of one of those kind of awkward dressing rooms. And anyway, I heard the encore start, and then I'm like, "Ugh!" It hit me. I'm like, and now for a second I thought, what are they doing? Initially I thought, are they just playing house music? What is this? Anyway, it dawned on me that we had another song to play. I'm busting through the crowd trying to, the band's on stage. They're playing. I'm riding through the crowd. I get to the security right at the stage, and this big burly guy said, dude, I'm meant to be up there. I'm the drummer. He said, yeah, big guy. He said, yeah, sure you are, son. So anyway, I don't know how but I managed to get up on stage for like the last chorus of the song.
Oh.
Oh yeah, it was brutal. It was brutal. Of course, the band still to this day have not let me forget that time that I did that. But anyway.
Now tell us, do you think bands know that there's an encore song? Like people think that's just because the audience is screaming and applauding that they're gonna
Yeah.
come back and do
Yeah.
one more. But you guys already had it planned, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. We did, but in my mind, because we played that certain song, we were done, because that's the way we'd done it for 12 months, right?
Right.
So that is, that was in my mind. Okay, we played the last song of the night. Time to go back to the dressing room. So I just wasn't thinking.
But I mean, in any concert that you guys do, you guys know
Oh
that
yeah,
there's one song if people come ask. So as you guys started
yeah,
breaking, into the Christian business, you're being big, and you were single, of course, like everybody
yeah,
else in the band. And
yep,
then you met your wife to be, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And her name is Breon. Breon?
That's right. Yeah.
Is she Australian?
No, no,
She's
no.
from the
She was
States.
from the States. Yeah,
Now, before I do that, you guys get group. I mean, people think just because you do Christian events that
yeah,
the groupies are not going to come and try to get in the bus with you guys and try to do all this.
yeah,
And I've done tours on buses and I've done the whole thing, but it's different for rock and roll or music bands. But
yeah,
how do you handle that? How do you, as a believer, how do you guys
yeah.
handle that? I mean.
You just don't let them on.
I know. I didn't think that far. I'm like before,
Yeah, I mean, this is a great thing about Newsboys, and we were very aware of this from way earlier days. Is that we've had the same management since the beginning of the band, the same group of guys pretty much since the rest of the band. So we're very we're accountable to each other, and we're always looking out for each other. Back in the earlier days, we never roomed by ourselves. There was always two guys to a room. We always knew where each other was, and it's because we knew that I knew that he had my back. And sometimes, of course, there was this sometimes, but 99% of the time, we were never alone together. We never, oh well, I'm going off with these group of fans to go get eats after the show. Well, that just didn't happen.
That's
And we knew that we had to kind of safeguard, because we knew we had to protect, because we worked so hard to get where we were. We knew we had to protect it, and we knew that if even if there was a rumor of something crazy happening, that could be really detrimental to who we were as a band. So,
right.
and even to this day, we still protect that. Now we have some good friends that we've known for years that will come on the bus, but it's never one-on-one or anything crazy like that. It's always a group of us. Might be a small group of them. There may be a lady or two, but it's never, it's never to where it could get weird. We always set it up to where if they come on the bus, these people we know, these aren't just any random people. There's people we
Right.
know, we have a relationship with. They come with their husband or their boyfriend or whatever, in that sense. There's never any single. We've never entertained any single ladies on the bus or anything like that, because we
That's
just knew it
awesome.
just wasn't worth it.
That's praise God for that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
right.
Now,
Yeah,
Brian, so she knew you're an artist, you're a musician, you're gonna be on the road 200 some days. How did the relationship develop in having kids and doing all that?
yeah.
How did you handle that? I mean, tell us about that.
Well, that's a great question. It's all we ever knew. So it was our normal, was me going away. But we'd never go away for months and months on end. We'd always do our 3 or 4 shows a week and then come back home. And we knew that was important too, because we knew a lot of bands that would go out. They'd stay out
Right.
for 2 months, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months. But we knew that was. We'd have times that we do that, but we knew you get really hollowed out when you do that. You've got to, if you come home every week and kind of touch base with your home life, I think it's very important to do that. And we've always done that. To this day, we still do that. So we had a sense of normalcy, um, to where we weren't treated like rock stars Monday through Wednesday, and then you had the Thursday through Sunday where you were. So there was always this kind of we've kind of lived 2 lives. We've lived this life where we get catered to, told how amazing we are, play in front of thousands of people, but then you have this other life to where you're changing diapers, taking the trash out. There ain't no rock star power between me and my wife. There ain't none of that. It just doesn't work. No, which I wouldn't want it to be that way anyway. So
Right.
we've always kind of had that anchor of coming home every week, and I think that's been a really important part of why we're still around.
You're right. You're just like, sometimes you do a show and standing ovation, you're signing books and autographs. You come home and you're ready to tell your family about it. They go, oh, well, the trash is not going to bring
Yeah,
itself in.
yeah,
They
right,
go,
right.
okay, all right. Now, how did
Yeah,
you, Duncan, how did you parent knowing that you're gone probably 4 days? And was there that guilt as a dad? It's like, I'm not there, so I will let them get away with whatever they want to get away because man, I miss them so much and I've been gone for 3 4
yeah.
days. How did you
No, no. I was always what I've always tried to do is I've always plugged in when I'm home. I know a lot of friends of mine had trouble with that, and I understand that. I do get that, but I always made sure to put down my phone as much as I can. When we first started, there wasn't any phones, but I always made sure that when I was home, I was present, um, and showed them every bit of amount of love. Now, sometimes love was not necessarily being the nice guy. Sometimes love was the opposite of that. But my wife was very capable, very strong
mm,
woman, very capable, strong, intelligent, which I needed. I couldn't have had, it wouldn't have worked if I'd had a kind of codependent type um, girl. My wife can take care of business with or without me. She's that kind, for good or for bad. That's the kind. And for years I'd wrestle with it, even like I'd like to, I'd say, because I'd come home and I'd want everything to stop, all the attention to come on me, and I want to, daddy just wants some loving, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
but that wasn't reality. I couldn't stop the world just because I was home for 2 days and wanted everyone to kind of gather around and have some daddy time. They still had school. My wife works. So they still had that routine, which she had to have and
Mm.
needed. So I wrestled with that for many years, but then I got to a point where I realized that it was working, and I just need to try to slide in as much as I could, be the best dad that I could while I was home, and then leave again. But I always made sure that they knew that I didn't want to leave to get away from them. I needed to leave because this is my calling.
Oh, say that again. Say that again,
Yeah,
please. Every
I,
artist listening or watching
right.
need to hear this
I
again.
didn't.
Say
I
it
wasn't
again.
leaving because I wanted to. I was leaving because I was fulfilling my calling. And when I talked to them about that, it seemed to click. That's
Mm.
like, Daddy, why do you leave? None of the other guys, when they were littler, none of the other dads leave. You're leaving all the time, and they can internalize that to think, well, there's something wrong with me because my dad leaves all the time. But I let them know. I said, no, 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 no. That's just what Daddy does. That's how we put food on the table. That's how you have the things that you have. But that is also my calling. That's what God has called me to do, is to go out and play drums in this band. And they got it. You know what I mean? And they said, okay, okay. They understood it.
When your kids, when did they start giving up on, or not giving up, stop thinking that you're an amazing drummer, a great musician, like when they were little? At what age were like, eh?
I don't think they really understood it until till they kind of got a little older, came saw the shows. And when they came, when we did some shows close to home, when they come and saw it, it was just like, oh, that was very important for them. That was when the pennies drop. Okay, okay, we get it now. We kind of understand what you're doing now more and more. And
Mm.
now I think, but there again, I was always their dad who happened to play drums. I was never this famous guy that happened to be their dad, if that makes sense. It was never that. It was just like, my dad goes and he does this thing, and they think it's super cool. They think
Mm.
it's really cool. And yeah, so yeah, and they've turned out awesome. All my kids are, they're just awesome, and a lot of that's their mother, of course, because
Mm.
she's awesome. But I've always made sure that when I'm home, I tell them I love them every day. I really connect and stop as much as I can to input into their lives, and I think that's really important. It's not the amount of time, but the quality of the time. I really believe that that you're
Yes.
spending with the children.
So what keeps you strong, faithful, spiritually? What do you do to stay strong spiritually? Because temptation is huge at that time. Not just temptation to do wrong, but there's temptations to quit the band, temptations to like this is too much, temptations other. I mean, everything you've been saying, this is a strong godly man, and really I'm very impressed by that. But tell me, what's keeping you strong?
I think temptations hit everyone. Just because I'm in a band doesn't mean it's any greater for me. I mean, you can work in an office cubicle and be tempted by the girl sitting next to you. As a
Right.
guy, absolutely. Maybe even more so in some ways, because you have probably in an office setting a lot more times you could actually be have more of an intimate friendship or
Right. Right.
relationship. Everything within a band it's all very, it's at distance, especially these days. It's like,
Yeah.
you're up on this stage. We've got our managers around us watching us all the time. The fans, everyone's kind of over there. For you to get close, you've really got to invite that in.
Mm.
Where in an office, you can't help it being close because they're your workmate. So I think you know, it could be harder if we chose it to be, but I think we've always had those kind of very simple, and I'm not to say, there are moments you look down the front row and you just go, dang, she is freaking gorgeous, right? But
Yeah.
that's where it's got to stop. I don't think there's anything wrong with that within itself.
Right.
To acknowledge the beauty of someone there's no fault in that,
Right.
because
But
that's how I'm made, right? I'm
right.
made like that. That's my creator made me, to, as a man, to admire beauty.
Right.
And I think we've got to make the distinction between that and then going to the next level where you say, okay, you're coming to the bus tonight. That's a massive, there's a massive chasm between appreciating, gosh, you're beautiful, or saying, hey, you come and we're gonna hook up tonight. That there's a massive difference between those two, and that's where you've got to do your self-editing. That's where you've got to do your self-discipline and say, no, even as great as that might be, why would I destroy all of this
Right.
just for
For
this?
this. And I
It's
love that.
never
But
worth it.
yeah, I love that. But that my big part of the question is like,
Yeah.
what do you personally do? Not just, I'm sorry, I emphasize
Okay. Yeah.
temptation,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
your walk. You being a dad, being a good husband, being disciplined, all that. What is we said you can't drink on the podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I know it's
Sorry.
orange juice, but
It is. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
Baptists watching.
Funny.
What do you do personally? Where's your walk with the Lord? Tell us a little bit about your walk with the Lord, your time with the Lord.
Okay.
What,
Well, we eat every day to sustain our physical bodies. I think it's really important to pray every day and to read the Word every day. Now, I don't do that. I pray every day. I don't necessarily get into the Word all day, although I'm trying to get better at that. But we need there's two men that live within us. There's the physical being, and then there's a spiritual man. And if we don't feed that spiritual man, that physical man's right there ready to take over because he wants to take over.
mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I've realized early in life is I want to say it's a battle, but it kind of is. There is this struggle between the two because our physical man wants to dominate. And it's a discipline just like anything else. And I have my days that I do better than others. I am far from perfect, far from it. But I think that's what I always try to remember. I always, and I think another thing that a lot of people miss out on is to not to get too weird with your politics or your partisan mentality. I think number one, I'm super grateful. Every day my 2 feet hit the ground, I say, thank you, Jesus. I get another chance today to get it right.
Amen.
And I think that's super grateful. And I've learned to love people. Now, look, if you think like me, wonderful. If you don't, I'd rather have you as a friend than have you as an enemy because we don't agree.
That's
Right.
good. That's
And I
right.
think we've got to change our combative stance on a lot of issues with people because, look, God doesn't love me anymore than he loves anyone else in this world. And I think we've got to remember that as Christians. Sometimes we tend to get to that point, well, I'm more worthy because I follow Christ. So that makes me just a little bit better than you. Well, that's not the case at
Mm,
all. I'm a sinner saved by grace, right?
right.
And that's my, I don't deserve to go to heaven. I don't deserve salvation, but I have salvation because of what he did, not
Mm,
because of who I am. My righteousness is as filthy rags. So I'm as righteous as nothing. They're my
mm.
righteousness. So, and what I mean, I mean to say, I'm only my standing in who I am is because of him, not because of me. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Amen.
And I think
Amen.
when we when we embrace that and realize that you know what, just by the grace of God go I. And dude, I think when you start to think like that, and I'm not saying maybe in a more humble stance, but I'm not saying you're going to have your opinions, and that's great. I think it's very good to have your opinions, but I think um, being grateful, thankful, and a lover of people, just a lover
Yes.
of people. Yeah.
One of the things people notice when you're drumming that there's veins sticking out of your arms. Is this
I know, right?
so? Tell us about your workout. And is that because you have to be a drummer, you have to have strong arms, or you just a healthy kind of healthy guy? And what do you
Uh,
do?
I think it's a way I play. I'm very. I play. I hit hard, and I when I play, I don't play just from here. You're gonna see this here.
Mm.
So for me, playing drums is a total body experience. It's just not. I'm not just doing
Ah.
this, and it's and some drummers like that, and that's cool. But for me, you're gonna see it all. I'm gonna lay it out all on the table. You're gonna see my. I want you to feel something so bad that I'm going to give you everything that I have.
Mm.
And what that means is I'm not a singer, so it's not going to come through here, but it's going to come through here. And you're
Mm.
going to get everything that I can possibly give you on that night. It's going to come from it's a heartfelt thing. It's a personality, whatever you want to call it, but I'm going to show you as much as I can how much I love doing what I do, and I'm gonna try to win you over. I think it's like we go out as a team, we pray as a team. When Newsboys go on stage, it is this four-pronged. Well, it depends if we got the United, but it's these 4 to 6 guys going out as a team, wanting to win.
Mm.
Um, and impact you as much as we possibly can.
Still want to know how much you binge.
Ah, you know what? People ask me that all the time. I have no idea. I'm not a weight guy. I'm not a lifter. A guy. I don't want to injure anything. I don't want
Mm.
to. I can get big. I've just got that kind of body. I can get big pretty quick, but I don't want to do that because I'd rather be long and lean and flexible rather than bigger, bulkier, and less flexible. That's not what I want to do. And I want to be, I'm all about, I'd much rather have great cardio, endurance, stamina, and flexibility than be big.
I work with almost, I can say freely, with almost every Christian band out there. I either did a set before them or after them. And I have to say, you guys are the one of the most, I mean, not in the top two or, top humble people that I've worked with. And you're probably the biggest. I can say you and Casting Crown are just, you guys were so approachable to people. I've seen fans trying, with security and everything, some other Christian bands would just like move. You guys were just so humble, and I love it what you posted once, said if my people are called by name will humble themselves and stuff. So it is great. You see the great humility, but uh I have questions from my fans. I have a TV show every night, and when they heard that you're going to be on, some of them ask questions. So these are their questions. Yes, I don't care. It says, what, what was the transition like from Peter to Michael as frontman for you? You guys started all in Australia with Joel and
Yeah,
Peter, and
yeah.
it was you, and then two more, right? It was Jody, or
Jody's been with us for, Jody and Jeff. Jody's guitarist, and
uh-huh.
Jeff Frankenstein, yeah, keyboard player. You know what? It was tough, man. It was tough.
Who? How did you start? Who was in the beginning that you guys when you moved from Australia to the U.S.? Who was with you guys? It was you, Peter.
Actually, I wasn't in the band when that first happened.
Oh, really?
Originally,
Uh,
yeah. No, I joined '93. They first came over 89,
came
90.
over to the States. So you were in the
Uh-huh.
States before you were with Newsboy. What made you move to the US?
I happened to be in Nashville. I played with another band in LA in
Ah,
'91. Came back '92. Anyway, '93, I happened to be in Nashville. It was a God moment. I happened to be in Nashville. I was picking up a drum kit to take it back to LA. And one of their managers saw me in church and got in contact with me and said, listen, our keyboard player has just left the band, but we'd love to get a keyboard player drummer because Peter was starting to sing more lead vocals at that time because John James, our original lead singer, there's some songs that Peter sang better. Anyway, so they said, would you want to audition? I said, yeah, I'll audition. Why not? Not really thinking I'd get the gig, but but we reconnected. Obviously we reconnected, and end up getting the show. My first show actually happened to be at Creation '93, and there was a lot of people there, and it was crazy because I had never played to that amount of people before. So that was a baptism of fire. I had to learn 13 or 14 songs in a couple of days before we went up to Creation and played that. But it was tough when Pete left. He was burnt out. He was so burnt out, and we didn't realize it. He just said, "Look, guys, I got nothing left. I'm burnt out. I don't want to do this anymore. I never want to walk on the stage anymore." He was done. And we were like, "Oh, okay, well," and we were kind of like, "Man, we had families, we built this career." So it took us all of about 5 seconds to say, "Guys, what do you want to do?" Pete wants to leave. We can't stop the guy. What do you want to do? And we all just said resoundingly, we want to keep going. I mean, this is what we do. This is what we love. And we'd known Michael for years. The band actually toured with DC Talk back in the late, when was that?
80? No, not 80s.
Yeah.
90s. Oh yeah,
Early
80.
90s. Let's call it early 90s.
Yes.
And so we had that relationship. We knew, we've known Kevin and Toby and Michael for years. And then one of our managers just said, "Well, why don't we?" It might have even been Pete. I can't remember. It was either Pete or one of us anyway. Just said, "Why don't we give Michael Tate a call?" Because DC Talk had broken up, and we all kind of looked at each other and go, "Well, that's weird." But then we kind of thought about it for a couple of minutes, and went, "Yeah, let's do that. Let's give Mike a call." So anyway, so we gave Mike a call, and then he came, rehearsed, and some of the first rehearsals were so rough because he's coming from a totally different musical headspace than where we came from. We're this kind of pub band from Australia, and we kind of had all our influences that we kind of grew up with. And then he was from DC. He had all of his influences. So some of the first rehearsals were pretty rough, I got to say, but we never really stopped. We kept on copped and rolling, and said, "Michael, come on, catch up, mate. Here we go. So it was a baptism of fire for him, for sure. But as we started, we knew we had to start recording straight away. We knew we had to. We didn't, because we knew Michael wasn't going to connect with just singing "Shine and Breakfast," the kind of original Newsboy song. So we knew we had to get Michael in the studio straight away, which we did, and we came out with a record, a Born Again record, which is the first record we did with Michael. We got that out in about a year, I think. And when that came out at number 4 on Billboard, we knew that we were good. It was the first kind of corporate sigh of relief that I think we're going to be okay with this.
And he's not even Australian. Why did you
Not
let
at
him
all.
in the
band? Well,
band?
either is Jeff and Jody aren't either. They're American as well.
So what do you appreciate about each one of them? Peter, what do you appreciate about Peter?
Oh, Peter's a hard worker, man. Peter's a really good dude. I've known him since we were teenagers, so we have that connection. I think when you have kind of had that relationship, I'd do anything for the guy, and then of course, Michael has become. I will be friends with him for the rest of my life. We've become really close. He's a good dude, man. He's incredible. He's a world-class singer. But he is a sweetheart. He's a good guy. I'd do anything for him too. I would, give him the shirt off my back if he needed it. Jeff and Jody, the same. There's nothing I wouldn't do for any one of the guys in this band.
So now you're the oldest. I mean, you've been with the Newsboys the longest now, right?
Right.
Awesome. Now, do you guys ever? I mean, I'm sure there's like sometimes you're on the road and you get sick and tired and stuff, and you having four guys with you all the time and just like every night. Do you guys get into fights?
Yeah, we do. Jeff and Jody, not as much. The thing with the 4 guys, right? It's a perfect blend and mix between 2 extroverts and 2 introverts.
Oh, good.
The 2 introverts, I don't think I've ever seen those 2 guys fight. Me and Michael, on the other hand, we can go at it because we're very he's a flamboyant lead singer. You know what I mean? He's the
He
David Lee
is.
Roth of the band. You know what I mean? So there are times where he'll grind me the wrong way, and I'll just come back, and it never gets physical. We're not that.
Oh
We're over.
yeah,
We're
I
just
know.
yeah. Never. It never gets to that. But we've certainly said some things that were just they were pretty brutal, brutally honest. Not to say we're not big cussers or anything like that, but it's just like there's been some yelling matches for sure, where I see him or he'll see me, vice versa, act in a certain way or do something that was a little arrogant or narcissistic within the show, and I'm capable of it, believe me, because and I don't do it on purpose. Just I'm an extrovert kind of guy, and so is he. So we've had our moments, but you know what? They get less and less, and I think and we'll have more. We'll have more in the future, but it never changes the way I feel about him. You know what I mean? It's one of
Amen.
those things that there's always love is always there, and we always make it right before we go to bed, if that makes sense. So
That makes sense. Another
yeah,
question: how are you and your family coping with this pandemic?
man, I gotta say it's been a blessing in disguise. I know a lot of people it hasn't, and I don't want to belittle that. So but for the first time in my career, I've got to be home. Um, so on so many levels, I mean, when it first hit, pandemic first hit back in March, everyone was out. I was off. All the kids were out of school. So me and my son went away for 3 months, and we just had the best time ever. And he'll remember that for the rest of his life, and so will I. And then, my wife, she was still working and stuff like that. She was kind of taking care of the house in Franklin, and she'd come down and visit once a week or so, and it was just amazing. So
Where were you?
I
Where did you take your son?
we were Florida.
You went to Florida for 3 months.
Yeah.
Is he a musician too? Does he play any
Oh
instrument?
no, he's way smarter than that. He's yeah, he's super smart. I mean, way smart. So he's into computers, and he'll end up doing something with computers or working for NASA or Skunkworks or something. I don't know, Area 51. Who knows? But he's super smart.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so as far like when this pandemic hit, did you think, oh Lord, all our events are canceled? Is this it? Or you knew that no, this is just this uh you know
I
stage
thought it'd
this
be
way.
all done within a few weeks. I was ignorant in that sense. I was very naive. I thought it'd be all over within a matter of months. And I thought, well, by the summertime we'll be back at the festivals, and we'll have a big fall touring. And I didn't see this coming. I just wonder. I don't want to get into it too much, but I think it's got incredibly politicized. And I just wonder if it wasn't an election year where it might have been a bit different. And I'll leave it at
Oh, let's leave it. Yeah. So, we just did something. We were together 3 weeks ago in
Yeah,
Nashville, and we
yeah.
shot this concert that played virtually, and
Has that aired
it
yet?
was what
Has
did
that
it
aired
play?
yet?
Yeah, it
Did it
did
play?
air,
I
and
don't know.
now it's available on YouTube. If you go to phmlive.org, it probably you can watch the YouTube
Okay.
there
Oh, I didn't
anytime.
know that one. Just wondering how it sounded.
phmlive.org. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it
good.
was
Okay,
great. You
great.
guys did great, and the way they edited and it looks wonderful. How did Newsboys United came about? Who?
Well, that's a great question. Well, we were, gosh, what was it? We end of not the kind of whole God's not dead thing, and I'm probably preempting your next question, but we got to a point where we kind of figured we just wondered. We kind of sat down. We said, I wonder what it looked like, because we had some kind of people ask, what would it look like if we invited Pete and Phil back, just to play a couple of shows and see if there'd be any traction for anyone wanting to see, Shine, Breakfast, Entertaining Angels, He Rain, some of those old classic Newsboys songs. And we were like, oh man, I don't know, is that going to confuse our fans? Is it going to be weird? Is it going to be weird kind of connecting back up with those guys after 10 years? Um, so we had to think about it for a second, but then we kind of pushed through and thought, well, we called Pete up. We actually had a song we were working called "The Crust Is the Final Word," and we were struggling on a verse, and we thought, well, let's throw it down to Pete. He's a great songwriter. Let's give it to Pete, see what he can do with it, and see if we like it. Anyway, 3 days later, he sends back a scratch vocal of what he heard in the verse. We loved it, and then we kind of think, well, why don't you sing the scratch vocal sounded so good. Why don't you sing on the song with Michael? Anyway, he did. It was a great success. It sounded amazing, and out of that kind of came, well, I wonder if we should do some shows just to see if anyone would want to see that again.
Right.
So anyway, long and short story, we did, and we started off, only booking about 10 shows originally just to see, if there's traction for it. There was massive traction for it. And, for the next 18 months, 2 years, we ended up doing Newsboys United. So it's been a really wonderful moment. And we kind of figured, getting back to Van Halen, we kind of thought, how cool would it be to see Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth on the same stage, sharing the stage as lead singers with the original band Van Halen playing in the back. We thought, how cool would that be? Because there are Sammy Hagar fans, there are David Lee Roth fans, but we thought that'd be kind of cool, And we thought, well, let's see. We thought, well, maybe Newsboys might be the same. So that was kind of the thought process that came out of, and it ended up being a massive success. And I think it's been a wonderful time. But I will say that I think it's run its course. I think it's been a wonderful thing. We can maybe bring it back every 3 to 5 years. I think that might
Oh,
be kind of
that's a
cool.
good idea.
Something that, hey, we're going to take United out this summer, or this fall, or this spring. But we feel now that it's run its course, and we're actually, and I don't want to preempt your next question, but we're in the studio right now writing another record.
Now, is that
Just the four of us.
is that that's the four back in the four? Okay, but was that difficult having having all six, Joel and Peter and Michael and all that? There's a lot of, not egos in the Christian, but there's just ways of doing things. Was that
Yeah, there's
difficult for
egos. Oh yeah.
of course, of course. I don't want to say it. Of course.
Yeah, sure. People are people, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I remember some of the first rehearsals that we ever had, because we rehearsed. We had to. I hadn't played Shine, Breakfast, Entertaining Angels. I think we played Lost the Plot, a couple of other songs. I hadn't played those for 10, 12 years. So I had to, get in my woodshed and learn them up again. But I remember some of the first band rehearsals. It was weird, man. It was weird because, we worked so hard to rebrand Newsboys
Ah,
with Michael, right? For 10
right,
years. Then
right.
all of a sudden, our old girlfriends were back. You know what I mean? In that sense, it's like my ex-wife was back. You feel me? And that's the
Yeah, I
thing. Being
feel
in a
you. Yeah, I know
band
what you're saying.
is like it's like a marriage of sorts. In that
Right.
sense. So it had that feeling to it, to where, okay, my new wife is here, my old wife is here, and this is weird.
Yeah, right. That's a
you
great way
know,
to put it. That's a great way to.
yeah, it's a weird way to kind of explain, but it's a way that I can explain it to people how it might feel. So the first time, but you know what? Within 10 minutes, we were laughing and goofing off, and we picked up right from where we left off. And that's, I think,
Mm,
an indication of how you can tell you do have good friendships, is that, and everyone was in such a great place. I think everyone was in a way better place than we were 10 years ago in that sense. So we were there just to have fun. We knew we had to make it work. We wanted to make it work. We wanted to make it work for the fans that were letting us know that they wanted to see this.
yes, that's awesome.
So
Two more, yeah, two
yeah,
more
go ahead.
questions. I know I've been enjoying your hour, and I'm really appreciative
Oh,
that you've
great.
taken that much
It's been
time.
fun.
But here's a question from a friend, a fan from Canada. It says, "You're an encouragement to others through your yes to Him and the ministry of New Boys. What encourages and lifts you up in times of trials?"
Um, just like anyone else, times of trials, get into the word, man. You know, Promises are there. I think sometimes we've got to self encourage ourselves.
Mm.
Any one of us, when we wake up in the morning, we have a choice. And I'm not belittling people that do legitimately wrestle with mental issues. I'm not for 1 second want to belittle that. But I think for most of us, we have a choice whether we're going to be happy today or whether we're going to be negative today. And that's not to say that we just kind of move along in this lobotomized fashion. I'm happy. It's not that. It's I choose happiness today because I'm grateful for what I have. I'm grateful and thankful. Look, just to have your health these days, just to have people around you that love you, to be able to have a roof over your head, to have food in your belly, clean water to drink. That's something to be grateful and thankful for. And I think when you start your day with that mentality, it puts a smile on your face. I don't think I'm owed anything. I really don't. Even though this year is going to be a lot leaner financially, but
Right.
you know what I'm saying. But it's all
Of
good.
course. It's
I am thankful and grateful that I still get to do this. One day I'll still get to do it again, which hopefully will be sooner than later. But I have a loving family. I have food in my belly. I've never wanted for anything. And that not only makes me grateful, but it also it kind of puts this weight on me. It's like, what can I do for others? And that's why, we work with Child Fund, and I don't want to get off on that, but that's why we work so closely and dearly with Child Fund. And we've worked with many other institutions that when you go to most of the rest of the world, they don't live like we do.
mm,
And we tend to think that they do. And we've got a lot of problems in this country, and we do, and they're legitimate. But when you go out of the borders of the US, most of the rest of the world um, has a way tougher days than we do. I mean, you go to anywhere in Africa, South America, they're struggling to put food on the table. They're struggling politically. They're struggling for fresh water, for medical, you name it. It's a battle. I mean, it is a battle every day just to survive. Where we don't have that. Our survival is whether we're going to Macca's or Chick-fil-A for lunch. That's a big decision to make. Or whether we put 93 octane or 91 in our tank. It's a big decision where um, most of the rest of the world is not like that. So I think as you do get to a point of gratitude and thankfulness, you start to think, what can I do to help others? How can I lift them up? How can we lift them up as much as we can? I think it's a responsibility of Christians in general. I think we should be trying to lift others up rather than tear them down. So when I see Christians not do that, it hurts all of us
right.
because then the world goes, "Aha! I told you so. You Christians are a bunch of hypocrites." Well, some are, but it doesn't. There's a lot of people in general that are hypocritical. But I think we've got to learn to be lovers of people, and getting back to that, circling back around to that, lovers of people. That's why we do what we do. That's why I leave my home. That's why we support companies like Child Fund, is because I think we're required to not only to give back, to show the world the light that we have inside. And one of the ways that we can do that is help them to put food in their table, is to bring light to their plight.
How can
And if
people
we
get a hold of that ministry that you guys are helping, the
It's just
Children
Child
Fund?
Fund. They can Google Child Fund. I know they're on Insta. Um, uh, Google it, and
Child Fund.
you can Child Fund, which we work with closely. They're an awesome company. We've been with them for quite a few years now. Been on many trips overseas with Child Fund, and they do incredible work. As do World Vision, as do Compassion, as do Food
Mhm.
for the Hungry. They all do amazing work because we've had a chance over the years to work with all of those companies. They're all awesome. But at the moment, we're Child Fund, and we love them. They love us, and we go down to Mexico every year. Work very closely with Baja Christian Ministries down there that build homes for the ultra needy. Um, but yeah, that's
Praise God.
for me. That's the fun stuff, is to be able to give back and to shine a light on that,
Oh,
because
uh,
it's look, one of the I'll leave. I'll finish this. One of the
no, take your time. We don't have to stop.
we build homes every year in the Baja, and one of the most gratifying things as a human being is to be able to hand those keys to the family that 3 days, 4 days ago were living in the dirt
Mm,
with sewer running through their house sometimes, with flies everywhere, smoldering fire in the corner of their house, leaking roof, just some conditions that are so, would blow your mind if the smells, just everything about it is just like you feel the humanity of it, because you realize human beings are not meant to live like this.
mm,
But it's because of their situation, no matter what the situation was, political or whether it was whatever it is. But when you can hand the keys to a family that they're up off the dirt, they're on a concrete slab, they have walls, they have a door that locks, they have sliding windows, they have a cooktop, they have beds. We supply beds and
man.
mattresses and blankets and electricity. They
Wow.
have switches that work, that aren't dangerous. They don't get electrocute the kids because they ran a wire off,
Mm,
some random wire that's draped over the community somehow. We make sure that all the electrical is up to par, that is not going to kill anyone, create a fire. All these things that, when you can hand that key over, the gratitude that comes over that family you can't describe the feeling of that. And it's not that we're better than anyone else, we're not, but just as a human being, when you can do that for another human being, it's one of the most gratifying things, way more gratifying than playing a big show. And a big show is wonderful and great, and I love it. But it goes deep. The
amen.
gratitude, that feeling goes deep. When they're crying, you may as well have given them $1 million. You know what I mean? And it's one of the most awesome feelings that a human being can have, I think.
You're an amazing man, Duncan. Thank you guys for what you do, the Newsboys. And I'll tell you what, I have to be honest. The first time I saw you on stage, I think it was Creation, and I performed in the comedy stage, and I came into big stage,
Mm.
and I saw you guys, and I thought, this guy looks like De Niro, and he's kind of proud.
Yeah, right. With my mohawk and just
And
yeah,
he's
I
kind
was
of
gonna say,
proud, and he's
yeah,
kind of
right,
proud. And then
right,
when
right.
I met you, and I'm like, I apologize, you're the humblest artist, and amazing man of God. Thank you so much for taking the
Oh, you're
time,
welcome,
and
man.
I
Awesome.
appreciate you taking them. I know we're gonna work together. We'll get our
Sure.
people to want to work with you guys. So love you, man. Thank you for taking the time,
Absolutely. You got
and
it.
let
You got it.
let your fans know, if they want to watch this. It's at Comedian Nazareth on Facebook. It'll be later
Okay.
today. It will be on all iTunes and Spotify and everything. And we have a show every night on Facebook called at Comedian Nazareth, called Live with Naz at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time, ladies. If you guys want to watch it, I would love to see you there, where you can become the
Love it.
comedian. Duncan Phillips, thank you. We love you. God bless you,
Awesome.
and
Thanks, Nathan.
we'll see you on stage.
You got it. Thanks,
All
bud.
right. God bless.
Bye.